what do you expect from lawbreakers who get to face the reality of prison sentencing in the court? Maybe shout, scream, or even collapse? But these guys were different, including Randall Moore, who even shouted at the mother of the person he killed. What do you think the judge will do? Get ready to find out how these hardened criminals reacted to judgment.
This man shot his wife and left their only son motherless at a very tender age. On November 11, 2009, a painful incident took place in the United States. Teresa Ann, a brave U.S. veteran who had served multiple overseas tours, had just finished her dental appointment and made her way to the Merle Hay Mall in West Des Moines, Iowa. Unknown to her, she was being followed by her evil husband, Randall Moore. To express this man as cruel could be a way of undermining his evil acts. As Teresa Ann got into her car, Randall blocked her in, leaving her trapped with fear gripping her heart. She was forced into his vehicle and they sped away. Their marriage had lasted less than a year before Teresa Ann always reached out to her family for help, seeking to escape the abusive relationship. On one occasion, they came to her aid, picking her up from work and providing a haven for her and her 6-month-old son at her aunt's home. Teresa's body was badly battered, with physical scars of her ordeal, with bruises on her face, arms, neck, and back, along with rug burrs. During a supervised visitation with their child, Randall's behavior was upsetting. He was seen pacing around her aunt's house, muttering about not giving her permission to leave, and even mentioning buying shotgun shells from Walmart. Before leaving, he threatened the family that they would pay for their actions. But it was not an empty threat. True to his warning, after kidnapping Teresa Ann, Randall took her back to their apartment where he subjected her to further torment. He left momentarily, only to return with a 12-gauge shotgun. As Teresa Ann pleaded for her life, Randall callously fired 2 shots at close range, forever silencing her cries. Des Moines officers swiftly responded to the scene, but not without their share of Randall's brutality. Officer Todd Rowland, just stepping out of his car, was shot in the hand and rushed to the hospital. However, Moore was arrested and prosecuted, but this time he shocked everyone with another show of his vicious and heartless mind. Randall's trial began a year later, and after 1.5 weeks, the jury delivered their verdict: guilty on all 4 charges. While tears of relief flowed among Teresa Ann's grieving family, Randall remained emotionless and unaffected during his hearing. As Teresa Ann's mother read her victim impact statement, Randall interrupted, demanding that she read a journal where Teresa Ann expressed her hatred towards him. He made pointless statements, attempting to gaslight the courtroom, and even boasted about his parenting and marital skills. His lack of remorse was evident, as he declared that he had not even a bit of regret for Teresa Ann's death. The judge, unable to hide his shock, responded to Randall's tirade, expressing disbelief at his words and acknowledging the true nature of his character. Randall was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms and 25 years for the attempted murder of Officer Rowland. You would describe Randall as the devil, but wait till you hear the story of this next convict.
The events surrounding Keith Ferguson's actions in court were nothing short of shocking and deeply troubling. Keith faced a dozen charges, including 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of first-degree home invasion, and wearing body armor during the commission of a violent crime. The circumstances leading up to this tragedy began in September 2014, when Tiffany Ferguson filed for divorce from Keith, her husband of many years. Tiffany, a loving mother of 4 and an active member of her community, realized that she and Keith were fundamentally different. While she possessed warmth, generosity, and a vibrant personality, Keith seemed distant and disengaged. The simple act of Tiffany taking up running became a point of contention, and Keith's behavior escalated to the point where he would break her glasses and invade her privacy by snooping through her phone. The first court appearance was scheduled for November 21, 2014, where Tiffany hoped to finalize the divorce and start anew in a new home. However, tragedy struck 3 days before the hearing, on November 18th of the same year. Keith armed himself with an arsenal of firearms, donned body armor, and carried explosives. He confronted Tiffany at their Cold Springs Township home and callously fired 3 shots at her in front of their 4 children, aged 3, 9, 11, and 13. But Keith's heinous acts didn't end there. He forced the terrified children into his vehicle and drove them to their grandfather's home in Excelsior Township. Once inside the house, he shot Tiffany's father, James Weber, right in front of the children. The traumatized kids sought refuge in their neighbors' homes, one of whom happened to be a Calcasa sheriff's deputy. The deputy immediately called 911, informing them of the situation. For the next 7 hours, Keith engaged in a tense standoff with law enforcement. During this time, he made disturbing references to military terms while communicating over the phone. Finally, in the early hours of the next morning, the standoff came to an end. Keith released the hostages and surrendered. From the very beginning, Keith's court appearances were marked by disruptive and belligerent behavior. Judge Lynn Budeye set his bond at an overwhelming $10 million, in response to which Keith displayed his contempt for the court by flipping them off and swearing at the judge. At his sentencing, Keith's demeanor appeared surprisingly subdued. Tiffany's friends spoke about the impact of her loss, and it was clear that Keith's behavior change was met with skepticism by Judge Meets. Keith was ultimately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Even during his sentencing, Keith screamed at the judge, displaying a shocking lack of respect for the court. Now, if you thought prison was a safe space to handle criminals, this story of this notorious prisoner will open your eyes.
This is the tale of Jamie Osuna, a notorious serial killer who took pleasure in not only torturing and enslaving his victims, but also ending up killing them. It's hard to believe that people can be so horrible even while still serving their jail terms. Back on November 13, 2011, a horrific discovery was made at a motel room in Bakersfield, California. The police were called to the scene where they found the lifeless body of Izette Pena. Izette, a 36-year-old mother of 6, had been residing at the motel. It was evident that she had suffered from severe and traumatic injuries. The coroner's report revealed that her cause of death was a result of blunt force injuries, sharp force wounds, and asphyxia. At the time of the incident, Jaime Osuna was 23 years old. He was arrested and taken into custody. Initially, he claimed to be the last person who had seen Izette alive at the motel, but he vehemently denied being her murderer. During his trial, Osuna maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. He expressed his hope that Izette's family would eventually find the true perpetrator responsible for her tragic fate. However, he was denied bail and spent nearly 6 years in the county jail. Jaime was first convicted of murdering the young woman, but the more scary part is that he confessed that he enjoyed it. You would think that was his first murder attempt, but he didn't stop there. He revealed that he had taken pleasure in many other killings throughout the years. When he faced the court, he showed no remorse, as if the gravity of his crimes meant nothing to him. After his conviction, Jaime was sent to Courtroom State Prison in Kings County. There, he ended up sharing a cell with Luis Romero, who had served more than 2 decades for fatally shooting a woman in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, this new cellmate would change Romero's fate in the most horrific way. In 2019, the prison guards discovered a horrifying scene in their cell. One of the inmates, by the name of Luis Romero, had been brutally beheaded and stabbed with his body parts taken away. And just some distance away stood Jaime Osuna, wearing a necklace made from Romero's body parts. Their bodies were so full of goosebumps, and to make matters worse, he didn't even deny his involvement and even asked for the crime scene photos, as if it was some sick trophy. Jaime's deranged behavior didn't stop there. During his time in prison, he continued to add tattoos to his face, further reflecting the darkness within him. Some women are virtuous, while to others it is never a bargain, and they make sure their names are well sculptured on the barbaric stones of cruelty.
You won't believe how this woman became the third woman in the history of the UK to get a life sentence.
Joanna Dennehy, born in August 1982 in St. Albans, Hertfordshire, had a troubled background. She grew up in the nearby town of Harpenden and was a mother to 2 young children at the time of her horrific killing spree. Dennehy's twisted mindset led her to specifically target men, expressing her desire not to harm women, especially those with children. In a chilling conversation with her acquaintance Lloyd, she revealed her aspiration to kill a total of 9 men, driven by a desire to emulate the notorious criminal couple Bonnie and Clyde. She saw stabbing men as a form of entertainment, demanding her accomplice Stretch to participate, stating, "I want my fun, I need you to get my fun." Her distorted mindset was further revealed when she admitted to a psychiatrist that she found murder to be addictive. Her reign of terror unfolded in March 2013 in the city of Peterborough, England, where she claimed the lives of 3 men. Łukasz Slabowski, 31, Kevin Lee, 48, and John Chapman, 56, all fell victim to her heinous acts. Kevin Lee played multiple roles in Joanna Dennehy's life. He was not only her lover, but also a property developer and landlord. Łukasz Slabowski, a Polish national, became acquainted with Dennehy due to their shared interest in alcohol and drugs. John Chapman, on the other hand, was a housemaid of Dennehy's. The timeline of events indicates that Slabowski was killed between March 19th and 29th, while both Lee and Chapman lost their lives on March 29th. Lee's body was discovered the following day near Newark, and it was revealed that Dennehy had callously dressed his lifeless form in a black sequined dress before discarding it. The bodies of Slabowski and Chapman were found on April 3rd near Thorney, displaying evidence of stab wounds. In the aftermath of the killings, Dennehy enlisted the help of her friend, Gary Stretch, formerly known as Gary Richards. They traveled to Hereford, where Dennehy randomly selected and stabbed 2 men, both of whom miraculously survived. These victims were innocent dog walkers, and she even stole the second man's canine companion. Once apprehended, Dennehy spared the justice system a prolonged trial by pleading guilty. However, she made sure to leave an indelible mark during her time in court. At just 31 years old, she stood before the judge and openly admitted to the murders, but what was truly chilling was her complete lack of remorse throughout the proceedings. She smirked, laughed, and even shouted out derogatory words, displaying a shocking disregard for the gravity of her crimes. While in prison in 2018, Dennehy sought permission to marry her cellmate, Haley Palmer, which caused concern for Palmer's family over her safety. That same year, both Dennehy and Palmer attempted suicide in a joint pact. In June 2020, reports emerged that Dennehy had entered into a relationship with another prisoner, Emma Atkin, who was serving a 12-year sentence for her involvement in a murder case. That's not all. In May 2021, it was once again reported that Dennehy and Palmer, who had been released from a 16-year sentence for robbery, intended to marry. People keep wondering what kind of a woman she is. Her story is never a succor and encouragement to womanhood, but rather a venomous spill on humanity. Illegal immigrants are expected to be discreet and law-abiding, but what happens when one decides to show off his craze in another man's country?